This is pretty exciting, folks. I have been sent a prototype for an item that's not released yet. I'm not sure when the release date is, and when we find that out, I'll add it to the description down below. But it is a brand new aquarium accessory and a method of aquascaping and planting vertically, which is quite interesting. So I guess the first question is, well, why would we want one of these? So, if you have the likes of geophagus that like to dig around, or other fish that do similar, and you can't plant certain root plants in your aquarium that you'd like to have, this gives you an option. Maybe you've got a underground filter and root plants aren't an option again, or maybe you just think this is cool and then you'd like to have one to display your plants this way in your aquarium. Either way, I think it's quite interesting and I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. I have seen one set up and I thought it was really, really interesting in a number of ways. So, like I said, pretty made up to be able to get a shot of it and introduce to you the new Habistax. I'm assuming Habby is habitat and stacks because you stack it up, right? Whether I'm right or wrong, it's a pretty cool name, isn't it? So let's have a look. We start with the base, and you can see these L-shaped slots on the inner and outer ring. That's going to help us lock everything together. Then we've got our inner chamber. I'll show you what you do with this in a wee moment, but again, that locks into place, and all the pieces have the same kind of fitting. There's your L-shaped grooves there, so each locks into place the same way. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, easy to use. I like that. And it's also modular, right? So you can choose to have all three of these, which reaches about 40 centimeters in height. Or you can choose to just use two of the chambers if you like, two of the sections. Even one, if you really felt like it. It will most likely be dictated by the height of your aquarium, but I do really like the modular design giving you the option. If it's a taller tank you have, you can use all three. If not, settle for the two sections and put the third away for if you get a taller tank another day. It's easy to assemble and also to disassemble. Look at that. Built that in 30 seconds or something. Pretty much done. Just a case of lining up the pegs with the slots and slipping them in, giving it a wee twist to lock it together, and then putting the cap on the top. Anybody can assemble that without instructions and within just a minute or so. If we remove the cap again, the idea, as you can see, is we fill the central chamber full of a nutrient-rich substrate, fill the outer section with gravel, and then plant our plants in the pockets. That means the roots are going to tunnel through into that central chamber and promote healthy, strong root growth. Obviously, it will be made out of fish-safe plastic, and maybe it's a geeky me, but it looks pretty cool before it's even got the plants in. However, that's what we're all about, isn't it? So let's set it up. I'm going to use this Tropica clay-based substrate because it's the same stuff I use in all my planted tanks. Normally, I do a base layer underneath the gravel, but it's going to be perfect for this application. I'm going to use my substrate delivery tool because if we just try to pour it out of the bag, it will go everywhere. And remember, we're trying to get it right down into the central chamber there. Might be a good idea to take it out every now and then and see how full it's getting. I actually bought 2 bags of this, but I don't think we're going to need as much as that. 1 bag is plenty. This Tropica substrate comes in 2 sizes, and this is the smaller of the 2 that I've picked up here. Like I said, 1 bag is more than enough. Still got a wee bit left over to do something else with. I am going to use some plants that I've got dotted around tanks, but I've also bought a few more to top up. So if you buy these tissue culture plants, you know they're algae free and pest snail free, if that matters to you. But what we've got to do is get rid of all this rock wool first, which can be tricky, but it's worth doing right. There's nothing worse than finding some of this floating around your aquarium at times. So separate it as gently as you can. It does help if you use running water and just kind of tease it away from the roots It's a good idea to put some damp kitchen towel over them, or even just keep spraying them so they don't dry out as well. But then we can get to the planting. I've got a few nice big pieces of Anubias, which, because it's quite tall, I'm going to start putting at the bottom. Anubias is a epiphytic plant, which means it doesn't necessarily need to have its roots in a substrate. What it does have though is a rhizome, and this is another thing I like about this Habistax. The pockets are going to allow light to hit the rhizome, which it certainly needs to maintain its health. The same can be said for this narrow leaf Java fern, and again, because it's a bit taller, I'm starting with that at the bottom. And I need to admit, I don't really have a plan here. At this stage, I'm just putting plants in where I think they might look alright, because the beauty of this is, of course, we can just move them about if we're not happy. That's not maybe as important with your Java fern and your Anubias, but certainly when we start sticking our crypts in, they are rooted plants, so if you did stick them in the gravel, to move them again could start making things awkward. But I'll tell you what, I feel like it's looking kind of cool already. I'm not really worrying too much about the back of the Habistax. I'm not even worrying too much about the side of it. I'm trying to get like 2/3 of it planted. The reason being, obviously you won't see the back, but also I'm not going to see the side. The tank this is going into is actually in a cupboard. So really the focal point needs to be from the front, but what we'll do is use our best plants for that, and then the smaller, younger plants for other angles. I'm going to pinch some of this pink flamingo crypt from one of the tanks because I think it will make some nice colour contrast. Also, it is a little bit smaller, so I can start using this for the higher levels. And what I'm doing now is trying to tease the roots through till I get to the crown of the plant. And this is where I realise once those roots go through, they're quite near to that central chamber, so they can start burying through and accessing the nutrient-rich substrate there. There's not quite as much distance between the two sections as I thought, that being the planting pockets and the inner chamber, which is a good thing. A couple of wee bits of Nubius Nana Petite at the top there, and it really is starting to take shape. One of the beauties about all these plants I'm using here is none of them are particularly demanding when it comes to their light requirements. That means if they're shading each other out a little bit, that's fine. Also, if we don't have any other plants, we don't need our light on as long. We can reduce the photo period and therefore save a wee bit of power. Right, what we're meant to do next is fill the base with gravel. I'm going to take a wee bit of a liberty and add some more of this substrate in there, just in case I want to add anything that requires root feeding down there. I'm not sure I will, I'm not sure I won't. Once we're happy with our creation, we can look at placement. Now, I was thinking it might be nice to keep it more centralised. Very rare that we try and put something in the middle of our aquarium. We normally talk about the rule of thirds, same as in photography, but I quite like the idea of it being in the corner there. Might be a nice way to hide some of the equipment. And I'll be honest with you, this took me a long time, but it's better to get this right now than realise you made a mistake later on. Once we're happy though, I'll grab the other end of my substrate placement tool and fill the base with the gravel, which I should have probably done before I put it into the tank thinking about it, but here we are. And after that, you can go ahead and fill up the rest of the aquarium base with however much substrate you intend to use. We normally say deeper at the back, shallower at the front, as it creates a sense of depth. We can start adding our water after that and making any final adjustments. Once it's in the tank, you obviously get a better sense of how you want things to be, and sometimes a wee bit comes loose, so might need to fix that. We can add our equipment, and I've got to say, the Habistax is one of the nicest ways I've come across from hiding the equipment from sight. I'm not saying it's the only way, but it's a very nice option. Lastly, we filled a cap full of gravel and put that in position. Now, I was leaving this till last because I was toying with the idea of putting a peace lily or something in the top there, but we'll go with the gravel for now and maybe change it up later on. You could always stick some air plants in the cap there, or even put a wee layer of that substrate in and grow any small plant that you like when you think about it. That's if it's going to be sticking out the top of the tank, of course. If you prefer a lid, I showed how to make lids out of this polycarbonate sheet the other week. All you would need to do is lay that over, mark out a circle, and then cut it out to allow the cap to stick through. Assuming your tank's not already deep enough for the whole thing, or you're wanting the top to poke out with some plants growing out of it. This was the point though, I realised I'd skipped a step. What I meant to do was place it. When I was happy, take it out and fill out the outer chamber with the gravel. However, got all excited and totally forgot about it and started filling up the tank, which was silly. So when you are happy with the placement, remember to take yours out and fill that outer chamber full of gravel before putting it back and filling the tank up with the rest of the gravel and the water. You could put that gravel in before you start positioning it right enough. I just thought it would be lighter to move around, but you can do it either way, I guess. What we've got though is a very nice, very different way of aquascaping here. Also, as the plants flourish and grow, they're going to soak up the nitrates and they're going to compete with the algae, for the nutrients. That means they can reduce your maintenance schedule a wee bit. If you have a black background on your tank, then the Habistax is going to melt away into that. You won't even see it, but once the plants really begin to take over, I don't think it's going to be too noticeable, if I'm honest with you. And what else have we got here? We've got a system that is new and exciting. A lovely way of displaying your plants in a different way than we've had before. A new way of decorating our tanks that is going to cut down our maintenance regime and improve the water quality by using more plants. A safe haven for your fish to explore and thrive in, spawn in and enjoy. Your shrimp and your smaller fish are going to enjoy investigating it, and even the cover that it provides to give them security and peace of mind, safety. They might even spawn in it, you might find. And like I said, when they do, the fry are going to have a nice safe place to get away from the adults. Our better fish are going to love these, particularly as they do enjoy places nearer the surface that they can rest. Yeah, I'm in.